Welcome to another edition of Pastor Kumuyi's Illustrations.
Our surrounding. I told you you're not going to believe. That makes the church weak. Because we have the doctrine. Because we have salvation. Because we preach sanctification. And because we stand on the totality of the Word of God. And therefore, obviously, the place may smell like a toilet, but we can pray like angels. Therefore, what does it matter? If the whole place is smelling like a toilet, the church is still the church. After all, we know that God doesn't look on things outward. He looks at the heart. That's the only Bible passage some people know. Therefore, they make the surrounding dirty and smelling. And then they say, after all, have you read about Jacob? He was going on his way, and then there was no building there. Nobody swept anything around there. He just put his head on the stone, and he said, this is God's house. And some people just stay on that passage and they say, this is God's house, no building on it, and it is smelling. Nobody keeps it clean. The place is not in order. And they say it doesn't matter. God is in this place in truth. And I didn't even know it. And this place that is smelling is the very gate of the beautiful heaven. That's what people think. It makes the church weak. The weakness of a strong church. Let's look at Genesis chapter 28. Genesis chapter 28 verses 16 and 17. And Jacob awaked out of his sleep. And he said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. And he was afraid and said, how dreadful is this place? This is none other but the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. Now what you need to notice in this passage is this. Number one, it is only one man's place of prayer and worship and adoration. Not for 2 people, not for 10 people, not for 100 people. It was not a place to invite unbelievers to. It was a place for a lonely Jacob to just have this experience with the Lord and then to go out of the place. It wasn't a permanent place of worship. You need to see that difference. It had only a temporary use, a day or a night. And therefore we cannot give an excuse of leaving a permanent place of worship with just a lonely stone, a single stone, and then be quoting the example of Jacob, when in the case of Jacob, it was a temporary thing. There was no invitation to other people to come to that place and worship. But we are inviting other people. If we are inviting other people, we need to make that place look nice. It was just a lonely worshiper. Not only that, he was poor. He said, with my staff, I passed over this brook. Not only that, he was a stranger. You are a resident. You have a house nearby that church. He was a stranger. Not only that, he was a bachelor. How many of us in the local district church, you have a wife, you have children, and you have work, you have a lot of things you are doing. He was a homeless stranger. Not only that, he was a jobless individual. This homeless, jobless stranger and bachelor, going on his way, not making that place a permanent place of worship, slept there that night. He had a good dream, and he had this fellowship with the Lord. He woke up and he said, this is God's house. I didn't know God was here at all. Maybe you go and get a place where we are worshiping God. You say, how much can I give for this? They say, well, all that we're doing is that we're throwing rubbish there. Really, we cannot ask you to give us money, but whatever you have, is before you came, we're just throwing rubbish there. And you are saying, we got a place of worship. And we don't know where you have got. And eventually we say, how much is this place you got? Oh, you say it was a good provision. The place is not neat, but God is not looking at neatness. The place is not good, but God is not looking at what is good. What is God's concern about all that? In fact, we are told that people, deny yourself, no bench, no pew, nothing at all. If it is on the ground, sit on the ground. When you go to visit even an unbeliever, will you sit on the ground in his house? When you invite people to come to the church, are you going to tell them to sleep on the ground? Look at university. They are preparing them for youth service and for science and technology. Look at how they put all these buildings where we are preparing people for heaven. We put toilets. You know, the children will urinate there and do this there. The whole place will be smelling. We say, but thank God, thank God. They have cathedral in those other places. They don't have doctrine. We have doctrine, but we don't have common sense. If we have common sense, we will know that the place where the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, where the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords is going to be worshipped, where he's going to be resident with us, should be better than where we are living. That's just simple common sense. And therefore we should understand that if the places of worship are not neat and they are not clean, it will debar us from having the real presence of God that ought to be there. Let's look at Deuteronomy chapter 23. Deuteronomy chapter 23, reading from verse 12. Thou shalt have a place also without the camp, outside the camp, whither thou shalt go forth abroad, and thou shalt have a paddle upon thy weapon. And it shall be, when thou wilt ease thyself abroad, thou shalt dig therewith, and shalt turn back, and cover that which cometh from thee. For the Lord thy God walketh in the midst of thy camp, to deliver thee, and to give up thine enemies before thee. Therefore shall thy camp be holy, thy surrounding be clean and neat, that he see no unclean thing in thee, and turn away from thee. Unclean surrounding will make us weak, will turn the power of God away from us, and will make God not to delight in the place. Where you find that we have a district church, and you find that there are ponds of dirty water, mosquito, maggots, a lot of things flying out of the place, and the children will go there and urinate, and the married women or the nursing mothers will throw the bad things coming out of their baby into that place, and the flies are coming into the church and going out and coming in, and the smell will not allow us to even have a good worship. People will not like to come there. That church will not grow. You will not be able to pray well. While you are praying and breathing in bad odor, it's not going to help. And the gutter in front of that church building is so dirty. The water there had not been swept away for 1 whole year. What are we doing since we got there? The Lord says, so shall thy camp be holy. No one should be satisfied to worship in a building that is of less quality, of less worth, of less cleanliness and beauty than the residence in which he himself is living. You see, when people are coming from their houses, they are coming from a good surrounding, a good environment, and they have cleaned up their own surrounding on Saturday. Now on Sunday morning, they move out of their residence, they come to worship in a church, and then the chairs we have are primary school children chair. The fellow in his own office at the secretariat, perhaps, he has table, he has chair, he has everything, very nice in the office, in the house, everything is nice. Then we invite him come to our church. And then he comes down, he sits down on primary school chair. His leg is not having a convenient place where he can put the leg. And his back is bent. He cannot read the Bible very well. All that we're saying in the afternoon, mosquitoes are disturbing him. Not to talk of early morning or in the night. The man will not come later. That church will not be strong in evangelism. That church will not be strong in gathering people together and keeping the people. You see, our surrounding can make our church weak. We think we're strong on doctrine. We're strong in Bible teaching. The strong church can be weak on the basis of a poor, dirty surrounding. Haggai chapter 1. Haggai chapter 1 from verse 2. Thus speak the Lord of hosts, saying, these people say, the time is not come, the time that the Lord's house should be built. Then came the word of the Lord by Haggai, the prophet, saying, is there time for you, O ye, to dwell in your sealed houses, and this house lie waste? You see what God is doing here? God says, you look at the place you are living, you look at the place where you are worshiping me. You look at your own house that is well sealed, and the cedars and the good wood you have used in your own dwelling apartment. You look at the place where you are worshiping me under a tent. Is this right? Is it all right for the creator of the heavens and the earth? Look at where you are living. Look at where you are worshiping God. It cannot be right. It cannot be right that the creature will enjoy more comfort, more beauty, more cleanliness than the creator. It cannot be right. It says, whatsoever things you do, therefore, do everything to the glory of God. If it is going to be for the glory of God, our surrounding should show that we're worshiping a God. Not extravagance, but cleanliness. Not extravagance, but moderate beauty. Not extravagance, but something that the unbelievers can be invited to, and they will say, we have the convenience here to sit down and listen to the word of God. It's not just the microphone. Because you see, all that sometimes some of us do is that once we get a good microphone and the people are hearing, it doesn't matter whether they are sitting in the dust or whatever, whether the people that come to that place, after they have gone out of the place, they will have jigger in their leg because of all the things inside the dust. That one doesn't matter. All we need is a powerful microphone. It's not crusade, it is church. It is assembly. And we are worshiping there in a permanent way. Therefore, we need to do everything we ought to do. You have choir, but do you have cleaners? Do you have people that make it their responsibility to always keep the place clean? Now, I've talked about our surrounding. That is one thing that can make a strong church weak.
I hope you have been blessed by this edition of Pastor Kumuyi's illustrations. Please don't let this illustration die. Pass it on to others, and you could be of help to someone somewhere. Till we meet next week again for another edition of Pastor Kumuyi's illustrations. Remain blessed.